Okay, hello everyone. We are live, and I'm Sarah Ng. I'm a career coach for women in tech, and I created AuthenTech, which is a group program for women who are 5+ years into their tech career and are like, wait a minute, I want to find a career that actually energizes me and speaks to who I am, whether it's within or out of tech. And Hey, How Was Your Day is a coffee break series with a fascinating woman in tech who describes a day in her past, her present, and her future. And I'm so excited to have Shamsheer here as a guest, who is a beloved past client, like one of my favorites, hands down, and has become one of my dear friends as well. And she is an entrepreneur, an expert career changer with a background in, I mean, you got your undergrad in engineering, then career change to PM, done entrepreneurship. You've done a myriad of things and love, you mentioned like you love playing in between like the intellectual and emotional spaces. And I would say that is so resonant with all of your choices in life. And
Yeah.
then you also mentioned, okay, we're like trying to find a fun fact. And one was like, okay, you have this alter ego that we kind of had joked about
Hmm.
with, was it like with speaking to your realtor?
Yeah.
Okay. But then we're like trying to come up for it or figuring out what the name was for your alter ego. And then you're like, oh, what about Sheila, which is the name for my chef's knife? And then I was like, that's much weirder. Wait, what? I didn't tell you that, but I was like, what do you mean you have a name for your chef's knife?
Well, my chef's knife is the star of my kitchen.
Ah.
She's very versatile and she's sharp, but I maintain her sharpness because I sharpen her every time I use her.
I feel like this is a metaphor for something, but immediately when you told me that, I was like, this is clearly like the fun fact that should be like surfaced.
Yeah, I mean, after I said it, I was like, yeah, this resonates. I mean, you know that I cook a lot, so the chef's knife is like the thing that helps me get everything ready. But not only is it useful, it's like fun and easy to use because the knife
Mm.
is so light and beautiful to look at. And
It's 30 minutes of us just talking about Sheila.
yeah,
Easily.
so it's like she deserves a name, and Sheila just felt right. So
Aw.
that's all. And I was like, wait a minute, this sounds like my alter ego. So I
Yeah.
feel like the name carries across.
Yeah. Like this beauty, easy and fun to like
Yeah.
use, which is not you, but like utilize. Let's try that.
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing that I've learned throughout my career and more so lately is like how different it feels to bring a playful energy to serious
Mm.
things. Like it just makes it
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
more fun. And a question that I'm learning to ask myself as I'm doing things is like, how can I make this 10% more enjoyable for myself? And it's
Mm.
like so fun to discover the answer. I'm not so good at practicing it all the time, but when I do, like, whoa, it just like unlocks a whole thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hopefully, we could see like some threads of that in describing your days. But I
Yeah.
think that part I love is well, first when you said 10%, I was like, that's so you to like add an increment to it. And I think also it like kind of relieves the pressure of like I need to make this the most fun I've ever had. It's like how can
Yeah.
I incrementally do it?
I'm not going to take credit for it. I got it from another coach, but it
Uh,
resonated with me, so I adopted it as my own.
yeah, it's part of your practice.
Exactly. It's part of my practice.
Part of your practice. Ooh, someone said love a good I don't know if you can see this, Shamshir. Love a good chef's knife. Chef's knife. Really one of the only ones you need.
Exactly. I don't think I can see the chat, but
I'll
that's
read them.
really the idea behind it. It's supposed to be like the most versatile knife in your kitchen.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna spend half an hour on knives.
I'm more than happy to. I'm like even happy to talk about my pans and the other things in my kitchen that I can't live without.
Rabbit hole. Rabbit hole. Okay. So we were talking about doing this like kind of dorky thing, but in my mind, I was like, this is so fun. We're adding 10% dorkiness to this.
Love
Um,
it.
yeah. Okay. Do you want to cheers with me?
Let's do it.
Okay. Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay. I have a sticky toffee tea. Oh, yes. Drink.
I'm drinking coffee left over from this morning.
Oh, well, East Coast time, so not too late. No,
Yeah.
no, it's still pretty cold.
It's definitely room temperature. The
Okay.
worst way to drink coffee.
Yeah.
Anyways.
tell us about what a day is like in your childhood, like a day in your past.
In my childhood, I think it was like a combination of two things. First of all, like so much play. I didn't
Hmm.
grow up with easy access to like TV or games and stuff like that. So I was always playing either by myself, with my sister, or a friend in the neighborhood. And the other part of my day was more around school, just like learning. And apparently, I was a leader in school because I was bossy.
Leadership skills, yeah.
Yeah, I guess in women they're called bossy,
Mhm.
but yeah, more like more of a take charge kind of vibe going on.
How would you how would you demonstrate this? Like, how did people know that you're bossy?
I think I tried to tell other kids what to do.
Yeah, that would be one indicator.
And I thought my way was the right way and everyone should be doing it that way. So I think that's what made it come across like that.
Yeah. I remember, I don't think I've ever told this story, is when I was in fourth grade, I lined everyone up and I cast them in my favorite musical, Grease. And I was like, yeah, the most popular kid, which wasn't me. Like, you're going to be Danny and you're going to be Sandy. And people just like listened to me.
That's
And there was
awesome.
no like performance of it, but they like went for at least two recesses where they just like would like play like the casting process and be interviewed. It was so strange.
That's so fun. Did they ever do like a performance?
No, but I like in hindsight, I'm like, I was really bossy.
Maybe that's why we get along.
Yeah. Yeah. We're like, we're not bossing each other around, but we relish in bossing other people.
Oh, I love it. I love
Yeah, your eyes lit up.
it. Yeah, ironically, I don't like telling people what to do, but I like taking charge and controlling the situation.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
they kind of feel like opposites of each other, but that's how it is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Not telling people what to do, but maybe like guiding and knowing, oh, I think we could say
Yeah.
strategy. Like
Strategy. Yes.
strategy.
Visionary.
Yeah, one might say. And then what kind of play did you do as a kid?
Tag, playing in the playground. I love to play house. Things like that. Just a
Yeah.
lot of like running around and doing dumb shit.
And then this was interesting. Did you mentioned like not having TV?
Yeah.
Was that by choice?
It was just like the circumstances.
Hmm.
And actually, one other thing I also used to do is draw a lot, which I
Aw.
kind of still do in adulthood, but not nearly as much.
That would actually be kind of cool to see a picture that you drew as a younger person and then now and
Yeah,
see like what you draw and how it
that would be
compares.
nice. Except I have nothing left from being a kid. It's all gone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm curious, okay, are you thinking of a certain age when we're talking about
Yeah.
playing and being a kid?
I think like 6 or 7 is where my head is going.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. 6-year-old Shamsheer like drawing, running around playing tag and
Yeah.
bossing people around.
Bossing people around. Yeah.
Bossing people around at school.
At school, at home, everywhere.
And then at school, which is like a big part of our lives overall, but like as a kid too, do you remember any subjects that you particularly liked?
I think for me, it was always like the logical subjects like science and math. And that stayed true pretty much like throughout my entire school career up until high school.
Yeah.
It just kind of spoke to me and it made sense in a way that like other things in the world didn't.
Hmm. What does that mean?
I don't know. It just like, it was just really easy to understand. And it felt like it was like a really good representation of how I think and see the world.
Hmm.
Like very like logical, like like logic has like a really clean flow that
Yeah.
life doesn't because life is messy and
Mhm.
unpredictable, but logic isn't.
Yeah, yeah.
So, it's like very comforting that way, I think.
Like here are the parameters. Here's the
Yeah.
expected outcome. Like
Yeah. Like
we've
if
got a formula.
A, then B, but not if A, then maybe C, D, or Z.
Yeah. No, that's life.
Yeah, that's life. Not- but not math.
And then this was okay. Now I'm curious. Like you mentioned, until high school,
Yeah.
like it was logic for me and going down like that route of thinking, which felt resonant. What
Yeah.
did something change in high school?
Nothing changed. I think the reason that I said that was because when I entered university and I was an
Mhm.
engineering major, suddenly it felt like it didn't come as easily to me,
Mhm.
ironically.
Mhm.
And it felt like everything, just the difficulty of the subjects got turned up so much that I wasn't actually initially able
Mm.
to keep up. Because all
Yeah.
of a sudden, I was surrounded by like 300 people who were
Yeah.
also the smartest kid in their high school and
Mhm.
were significantly like more hardworking and prepared than I was. So
Mm.
it felt like it felt like I went from like level 3 of a video game where I was like chilling to all
Yeah.
of a sudden like level 10 and I was like, "Ah, what am I doing here?"
Yeah. 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 Mm. Yeah. This like suddenly there's this, I was going to say amplification, but it was
Yeah.
just like, whoa, like everyone is now was picked from the best, which is like, the common sentiment when you go to certain schools and you're like
Yeah.
in this surrounding where people are known for being high achieving.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was like a really rude awakening, I think,
Mm.
of like everything I thought about myself kind of became untrue all of a sudden.
Mm.
And I had to build up my work ethic and really learn how to manage being in this kind of environment to be successful. I mean, it was like probably one of the largest like growth curves I've had as an individual.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
bet that's so, I mean, I know it's so resonant with people and myself, like, going through a career change or some kind of change. Maybe it's even a breakup and being like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I thought this of myself. Okay, we're having like a little bit of an identity shift and like,
For
how do I
sure.
navigate or where do I go like with this new information?"
Yeah. And that's some of the work that you and I did together when I met you last year, right?
Mm.
Where
Mhm.
I was a product manager for so long, and then I was wanting to try out different things, and there was this whole like gravity of like this identity that was like pulling me, and it's like, no, like you're a PM, you can't be anything else. Like, who will you be if you're not a PM? And I
Yeah,
think like those things are the hardest things to navigate when you're wanting to experiment with new things.
yeah. And so, how did you start experimenting, whether it was in university or you can talk about like when we worked together last year?
I think that like the approach that you and I created together, or that you helped me, um,
You and I
was
created.
yeah, we created together.
Yeah.
Um, Also, like really informed by my experience of working in growth, and
Mm.
growth is all about running small experiments and lots of experiments. So I'm used to having like 40 experiments running on my team.
Yeah.
So there's like no pressure for any experiment to go one way because collectively, like you're making a lot of bets. So you're
Mhm.
going to get to the result that you're wanting through some of those experiments. And learning how to frame experiments is really important too, because you can't just run experiments for the sake of running them. To make them more useful, it's like you have to have a goal of what you're wanting to learn by running the experiment. So the way
Yeah.
that you and I did that was like, one of the things that I wanted to explore was building a coaching business. So
Mhm.
you can't just like build a coaching business in like one day. So first it was like, well, how does it feel to be in a coaching conversation with someone as a coach? And it's like, okay, how can I find 3 people to participate in that kind of conversation with me on a semi-regular basis? And like really breaking it down into those small chunks makes it feel so much more manageable. And it's not about, should I be a PM or should I be a coach? It's like, hey, like I just want to know how it feels to kind of do this thing for the next 6 weeks. I'm
Yeah.
still a PM, but I'm also running these experiments on the side. So it
Yeah.
feels like de-risked almost. And it's more about like learning rather than this pressure of deciding who you're going to be and like leaving one identity behind for the other. So I think that's really what helped me navigate it a lot more smoothly.
Yeah, that's so well said. I like this idea of, okay, there are 40 experiments, and of course, it doesn't need to be at that scale, but it's how do we diversify and try out all
Yeah.
these different things?
Yeah.
And have it be intentional. Like I'm doing this to learn about this thing and see how it feels.
Yeah,
And
for
you did
sure.
that.
Yeah. And also like I think the other thing I was going to say is that um just because you decide to experiment, like it doesn't mean you can't go back to the original thing, right?
Mm.
So
Mhm.
like through kind of experimenting with coaching, also learned that I was actually seeking more stability for my career. And
Mhm.
coaching is inherently like, well, being an entrepreneur and running your own business is inherently unpredictable.
Yeah.
So like that was also a really important learning from those experiments as well.
Yeah.
Uh, and I was going to say something, but I lost my train of thought. So maybe it'll come back to me.
Let me repeat it back to you, which I think is helpful for other people to hear too.
Yeah.
I think it was also like in this stage, this season of your life too, like
Yeah.
what is helpful
Yeah.
and what like feels good. And then also with coaching, like the stability or instability of it,
Yeah.
like actually finding out that learning was really helpful
Yeah.
because it's not success or failure. It's just like, here's another data point.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think like the seasonality thing is really important because in this
Mm.
season I was wanting more stability, but what it allowed me to learn is like I actually like found my love for coaching throughout that process.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
it gave me this deep knowing that I'm going to do it one way or the other in my life. And I'm just going to
Mhm.
figure out how to make it a part of my life and make it larger as I grow.
Mm.
Because
Yeah.
like right now it's like a smaller part of my life, but over time I want it to get bigger and bigger. And it also showed me like I can bring that muscle to a full-time role as well. I don't only have to flex that muscle in a coaching one-on-one conversation too.
Yeah. So how can coaching, it's like almost, it's a formula of coaching, add
Yeah.
stability and like grow it bigger too.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I think one really cool thing I'll be doing in my full-time role is like as a coach, your job is to like ask lots of questions to get to the heart of something and then
Mhm.
brainstorm strategies to get to that goal. And that's like so crucial as a product manager too, because
Mhm.
you need to find out what your customers want, what your stakeholders want. So I'm really excited to bring that kind of flavor into my work and see how I can do like more discovery and more of that coaching skill to
Yeah.
align on why we're going somewhere so that getting there feels significantly easier
And faster.
and faster. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm curious, what does your present day, we kind of touched upon it a little bit, but I was curious what like what you had in mind for your present day and what that looks like.
Yeah. So right now it's a combination of things. I'm pretty actively looking for my next role and I'm having some coaching conversations on the side. But on a day to day basis, a lot of it is around providing myself that like structure and self care so I'm
Mm.
energized for the job
Mhm.
search. And then having conversations that are either exploratory in nature or actually like actively like performing interviews and discovering where that fit might be. And the way that I do self care is like you're not gonna be surprised by this, but cooking every day,
With Sheila. Cooking with Sheila.
cooking with Sheila, um, getting my 10,000 steps in, and like having a nourishing conversation with someone every day, whether that's like a
Mm.
friend in like a coaching context and therapy, like something like that. To me, that's like what feeds my soul. So that's
Yeah.
kind of how my days are looking right now.
Yeah. This is why we get along because I literally wrote about this in my newsletter today about
Yeah.
like my staples and it was movement. I didn't include Sheila. Like I don't cook too much. But yeah, and like some kind of meaningful like social conversation with
Yeah.
someone.
Yeah. I think connection to me is like super important.
Mm.
Without it, I'm like a plant that withers without sunlight.
Mm. An extrovert?
I never identified as an extrovert, but I might be one.
Yeah. It's like that doesn't sound like me. We differ there. Okay. And then how do you add like I think you mentioned structure. How do you
Mhm.
add like little bit of structure to your day? Because I know that can be difficult sometimes.
Yeah. It's like something I don't really think about because I think I just do it automatically.
Mhm.
But the way that I do it is like I have a routine in the morning and night that's almost always consistent.
Yeah, what's that?
So in the morning, it's like having coffee and like reading, like Substack, Twitter, something like that.
Love Twitter.
It's so good, but also so bad sometimes.
Mhm.
Everyone has a hot take, and sometimes I have to step away for a while because it's too triggering. I'm like, I don't need this level of hot takes on my life.
Your mother. Yeah.
And then in the evening, it's like my skincare routine and kind of like winding down with like calling a friend or once again, like reading or watching TV. But I think the way that I normally do structure is like I make I make goals for the week. So like what are the
Mhm.
things I want to
Mm.
accomplish? And then I split it out day over day.
Mhm.
So for example, it might be like do 5 mock interviews for this upcoming interview, and then I'll
Mm.
go and schedule those out. And then other times it's like do outreach to like 10 people in this industry or this company,
Mm.
and try to schedule a chat. I find that I'm a lot more successful if I'm very specific with those goals. So right
Yeah.
now, my main goal is to find a full-time role. But if I look at that on a day-to-day basis, it's debilitating because it's so big.
Mm. Yeah.
If I like
Mhm.
break it down week over week and day over day, then it's a lot more digestible. And I think that's what
Mm.
helps me give myself that structure. Um, and it's tough because like technically my entire day could be taken up by job search activities, right? So
Mhm.
it's about one thing I'm constantly having to be aware of is what's my energy level today and what can I realistically
Mm.
accomplish, and like
Yeah.
how can I leave time for like fun and play outside of that? Because sometimes there's a bit of guilt of like, oh, I should be doing more. And
100%.
that's like an unproductive rabbit hole I get into sometimes.
Yeah. With the I mean, so resonant with the energy levels and
Yeah.
like this could easily take up my whole day and I should be doing this and I should be
Yeah.
doing it all the time. How going back to like your 10%, like how have you recently or how could you add 10% of more fun or like play into what you're doing, into your present?
Honestly, sometimes it's just about doing the same thing, but like
Mm.
doing it with a different mindset or a different energy. So, for example, like I'm working on a take home assignment for a role I'm interviewing for right now.
Mhm.
And when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, this is going to take so long. And then I thought about it and I was like, okay, how can I make this 10% more enjoyable? And in this thinking about, oh, like as a PM, one of the things that I really enjoy is thinking through problems and defining what's going on and making recommendations based off of that. So what if I don't treat this as like an interview exercise where I have to be perfect to land the role and feel all that pressure?
Yeah.
If I treat this as just like a fun puzzle I'm solving because that's what I love to do.
Mm.
And I pretend that I'm going to send it to like my colleague to have a discussion about it. Like, do
Yeah.
you like, I think you can feel already the energy shift so differently.
Yeah. 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 And was it when you think about that, like that reframe, which is,
Yeah.
okay, I'm sending it to a colleague like I enjoy, like
Yeah.
collaborating with, I'm taking the pressure off, like what is the thing that I like to do? I like
Yeah.
to solve puzzles. So like I'm gonna look at it like this and like it's not so deep and doesn't need to be perfect.
Yeah.
Like looking at it through that lens.
Yeah.
How do you do that? Because that's like, I think really, really like a skill. And so it's a matter of, okay,
Mm.
what do I like? How do I then approach it? Or what do you do?
I think I've gotten to this point where now I can tell when I'm placing a lot of pressure on things.
Mm.
I've
Mhm.
learned to spot that much more quickly. So when I get there, it's kind of like this light bulb moment that goes, "Oh, I'm in this room again. I didn't mean to walk into this room. Let me go
Mm.
and walk into this other room that I'll be
I
happier
like
in
that.
and, like, has more light because of what like, something like that."
Yeah.
So so, like, I know when I'm interviewing, my initial reaction is to be like, "This has to be perfect, and I have to do everything right, blah, blah, blah."
Mhm.
And I know I'm gonna do a poor job if I do it that way.
Yeah.
And so it's just, like, recognizing, like, "Oh, okay, I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself," and if I treat this as, like, a process where I discover and the team discovers if we're a right fit, That also gives me so much more agency.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the first step is honestly just like being able to spot it in yourself. And like you're not always so good at that. So asking other people to point it out when it happens is also really helpful too.
Yeah. And I love that part about the room. Like that's so good. Describe like, oh, I didn't mean to walk into this room, like not the living room right now. But
Yeah.
like actually I want to be in, I don't know, someone has a big house, the entertainment room. And like, what does
Yeah.
that look like? What's in there?
Exactly. Yeah. Like, yeah, maybe if you're like being chased by a bear, you damn well want to feel that pressure. You don't want to be like, let me discover how it feels to be with this bear. You're like, get me the fuck away.
Yeah. We're not experimenting 40 different ways right now. Like,
Yeah.
let's implement the solution.
Yeah.
Escape.
So yeah, I think like removing that judgment is
Mm,
really helpful.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's like fast forward. I picture us like having capes on and we're shooting off into the future.
Yeah.
Describe a day in your future, like your dream day. What would that look like? With
Oh
details.
my. Okay. I think my dream day involves a combination of structure and flexibility. So as I mentioned, like I do really enjoy having those routines, and I like having things on my schedule that I'm doing or people I'm talking to. Um, I think for me, like one of the things that I'm working towards long term is doing more coaching conversations,
Mhm.
like as many as possible, because like they just feel like so fun and free to me. It's like breathing air. There's like no effort
Mhm.
involved. So
Mhm.
I'd love to do more of those.
Because you're good at it, by the way. You are.
Thank you.
Yeah.
um, and yeah, I think honestly, it's like a lot of the things I'm already doing.
Mm.
So being able to work out, like being able to have a good meal, like talking to someone I love.
Mm.
And yeah, I think one thing I haven't expressed too much of lately is my creativity. So
Mhm.
I'd love to do more of that, either through like writing, that drawing, or just like making new connections between new ideas and figuring out ways to express them so they're approachable to other people is also something that's really fun for me. Um,
Yeah.
so I think those are like more of the things that I'd love to do in a perfect day.
Yeah. Okay. What about specifically? What kind of workout would you do? Let's start off with that.
I actually recently just started doing resistance training. I'm on
Mm.
like week 4 of trying to build this habit. And that's something I want to continue doing like well into my older years. So that's the type of workout I think that I would want to be doing longer term.
Yeah. Is
Yeah.
resistance training the same as weightlifting?
Yeah. So
Oh,
it's this, I guess weightlifting is a type of resistance training because
oh.
like you could also do like calisthenics or like
Mm.
other things. Um and yeah, I want to be like buff. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, and also good like as we age to have that kind of strength within us.
Absolutely. Yeah. Already in my 30s, I'm like noticing how my body performs differently and I'm like,
Mm.
mm-mm-mm, I don't like this.
And it's so nice. Like I do some weight training and to be able to like take my heavy carry-on and just like lift it over
Oh
my
my
head.
God. Yeah. I was like really into it during lockdown and I got a
Mm.
little bit buff. And the first time I was able to do that, I was like, yes, this feels so good.
A little bit buff. Now I'm picturing you like really buff, actually probably downplaying it.
No, no, no. Then when things opened up, my habit fell to the wayside. So no, I'm trying to do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what is the meal that you would have or meals?
My favorite thing to make is breakfast
Mm.
because it's the most delicious meal of the day. Don't come for me.
But do message her if you agree.
Yes, do message me if you agree. And something I've been obsessed with is making Spanish omelets. I think that's
Mm.
so good. It's like probably my favorite breakfast. And since I'm trying to be buff, I figured out a way to make a high protein one.
Hand in hand.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of what I'm obsessed with lately.
Okay. Interesting how you pointed this out, how much your present day aligns with your dream day.
Yeah, it does. I think that
Someone said breakfast is also my fave, by the way.
amazing.
You're in the right crowd.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of alignment. I think that right now I'm able to have a lot of this in my day because I'm not working for a full-time role, and I'm thinking
Mm,
like when I do go back into full-time role, I'll have a little bit less
yeah.
autonomy over my time.
Yeah.
So long term, like this is more of what I want to be doing.
Yeah. Like, how do we make sure these things come into play? So then it's not like Zoom call, like drop everything, forget the omelet. Like,
Exactly. You've been there, so you know what I'm talking about.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, as you saw, I like had shown Shamsheer my like microwave salmon like right before this call. It's not always pretty. So yeah, like how do you keep like the dreamy parts in whatever you end up doing next?
I think it's gonna have to be, that thing we talked about earlier where I said, oh, like I'm in this room and I don't mean to be in this room. I think
Mm,
it's likely like when I'm in a full-time role, it's going to happen and I'll have to recognize it and kind of adjust multiple times.
yeah.
So, like one thing I think I wasn't so good at previously was saying no to meetings when I was invited.
Hmm.
I will be militant about it now.
Yeah. There's got to be a purpose and an
Yeah,
outcome.
unless there's like a clearly defined agenda and my presence is required, I think I will
Mm,
be saying no.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great change.
Yeah. It's another experiment. We'll see what we learn.
And I think the other thing like that I really that I know about you and that like you even just showed here
Yeah.
is okay, like for instance, you're like, yeah, I agree. I was like, I didn't even say it yet. Like
I'm acknowledging that you're about to share something.
is when you're like, I got really buff, like I was really into resistance training before, like during the
Yeah.
pandemic, and like I'm circling back on it now.
Yeah.
It's like the things that are important to you will come back.
That's really true.
You
Yeah.
won't necessarily like lose them forever.
Yeah. I really love that insight, Sarah. You're so good at reflecting these things back. I love that about you.
That's why you're already nodding. You're like, yes,
Yeah.
tell me the compliments. Well, thank you for the compliment as well.
I'm sad that we've stopped working together.
Well, we are still doing these things
True.
and collaborating in other ways and voice noting a lot.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I'm glad there was a point where I told Shamsheer, I was like, oh, now we can be friends. And she's like, it's been months, maybe a year. She's like, I
I
thought we
thought
were
we were
already.
already friends.
It's like, now we can be friends. I'm ready.
That was so funny to me. Well, we weren't working anymore together in like a formal coaching capacity. So to me,
Yeah.
we were like, oh, the fact that I'm still talking to you means that we're friends now.
Yeah. Like, Sarah, what did you think this was?
What did you think, Sarah?
That's a good question. I was like, ooh, I haven't navigated this like having rapport with someone after
Yeah,
ongoing. And I was like, I still want to maintain like being there
okay.
for you,
Exactly.
supportive, reflecting back. And then at one point I was just like, let me tell you about my day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that felt really good. I'm so lucky to like have you in my life and to talk about things.
Same. I really value our conversations,
Likewise, so fun. We laughed the whole time. Like,
as always.
yeah, as always. And for anyone, fellow breakfast people, I can't see your name, otherwise I would shout you out. So maybe these are several people that love a good chef's knife and breakfast. Anyone listening to the recording, like please message Shamsheer on LinkedIn. She's an incredible person to connect with, to receive coaching by, to just talk to. Is that fair to say? Like I'm kind of
Yeah.
opening up the door and saying like, hey world, everyone can talk to Shamsheer.
Everyone can try. I mean, if 3 people message me, I'll make time for all of them. If 20 people message me, I'll have
Everyone
to
can
try to
try.
be more discerning.
Are there specific people that you would want to connect to?
I think I always love talking to people that are interested in examining a little bit deeper than what's currently happening on the surface, that
Hmm.
are interested in learning how to practice more agency rather than kind of like accepting circumstances as they
Mm.
are. And also like people I think who do take things a lot like very seriously, but want to learn how not to.
Ooh, that one is so juicy.
Yeah, because that used to be me, and I'm like still learning how to like do more of that. So I love doing that with other people.
Yeah, you are like lighthearted, but serious. Like I know without a doubt you will like handle things and get stuff done.
Thank you. That's a really sweet compliment,
The fact that you thought it was a compliment.
isn't it?
It is. But like the fact that you're like, this is so great and just like something you value.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm very goal oriented, but I also like to have fun. So
Yeah.
it's cool.
Well, I can't wait to see like where your creativity takes you with drawing or writing as well. You
Yeah.
like writing and see that. And it was good to see you.
Thank
We're going to
you.
talk again right after this, but thank you for coming on. Hey, how was your day?
Thank you for having me, and thank you for everyone who listened. I hope it was fun for you.
Yes. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.